When you say transplant in the United States, can you be more specific on the areas? I think.
Well, I just use like Sweden and Denmark as an example.
But where in the United States when they've been transplanted to? Because anywhere in the United States, I
doubt many of them are going.
I don't think the student really has anything to debate.
Do you believe that at this point you are feeling the ripple effects from slavery in the history of the United States and that you face systemic discrimination?
I think there have definitely been times in my life and places that I've been where I have felt the effect.
I don't believe the United States is a racist country. Yeah. If you disagree, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
So it was interesting to me at the beginning you said you don't think it's a racist country today. Do you think that at some point it was a racist country?
Yes.
Okay,
so that's why I'm not saying that the United States was never a racist country.
Yeah.
I think slavery was a horrible evil, of course, and I think it was horrible that it took us to get to the 60s for the Civil Rights Act. I'm not at all here to argue that the United States was never a racist nation. Every single nation since the dawn of civilization has practiced slavery in one form or another. It's still practiced across the globe. Thank God we abolished it.
Yeah, so just my question up front for you is, at what point did we stop being racist? Was when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, or when?
Yeah, I would say after the Civil Rights Act.
So the day
that everyone was given. No, I mean systemically, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now it doesn't mean that there weren't individual racists.
Yeah.
And particularly when I'm talking about 2020, because most of the people out there protesting are not the people who were around during the Civil Rights era. You have a lot of young Americans who have never suffered at the hands of systemic oppression.
Okay. In your sign specifically, you're talking about systemic oppression?
Yes.
Okay.
Not racist individuals. There are plenty of racist individuals, and you can find those black, white.
Yeah.
We just had a gentleman right there accost my friend there who's biracial, tell him that he was white. And he said, well, that sounds kind of racist. Right? And then the guy got really mad. And then I said, well, I don't know, are you brown or yellow? And he got mad at me. I said, well, I'm just using your same shading rules. And he said something about checking a white box, and I create all the tests. So I don't necessarily know what was going on there. But I'm not arguing that there are not individual racists. But as a country, the United States, not only do I believe that it's the best country in the world for people of any races.
I agree that overall we are the best country in the world. I agree with that. Yeah.
If you, and this is just a question, I'm not trying to bash this student. If you believe that the United States is the best country for individual races in the world, how could you also believe that we are systemically racist? Or that we're in a racist country? And the reason I ask that is because if we are the best, meaning we're number one for all groups of minorities everywhere in the world, how is it also a systemically racist place? Doesn't that also mean every place is systemically racist? This is a fair question. This is a really fair question. Doesn't that mean every place, like throughout the world and the world's history, was just racist forever? Maybe I misinterpreted him.
But I think the main place where I disagree, perhaps not, we don't have systemic racism, but I think that whenever you think about racism, you have to keep in mind classism. I think that systemically there are a lot of systems that do divide classes and keep lower classes suppressed. And because of our history, because of the way that black people and many brown people were treated in the past, we are tied into lower classes. And you have to keep in mind that when you're talking about racism, oftentimes people actually mean classism, and the two are very closely intertwined. When you look at the numbers, it's how it is.
Well, let me ask you kind of to define classism and how you think that there's systemic oppression through the form of classism. And maybe we'll probably find some common ground and then some areas where we disagree.
Yeah. Just if you look at job opportunities, oftentimes people say, go ahead, get a 4-year degree. That's going to give you more job opportunities. But for people who are completely broke, oftentimes 4-year degrees are just not opportunities that they have because they can't go into that financial deficit, and they don't have the time to be able to get those degrees and things like that. I think there are a number of things that, and I didn't come here prepared today.
He brought up classism and he tied that to racism, but the average white American, and I'm not making this up, this is a question. The average white American makes approximately $60,000 per year in America. The average black American makes around $43,000 per year or $44,000 per year. White Americans almost double the rate at which they attain degrees and obtain trades. And they're almost double the rate. Why aren't they double the salary? And I think that's a fair question. Because if they get degrees at a higher rate, especially advanced degrees such as master's degrees and PhDs, and they go for trades more often, and they have more workers by percentile in the workforce and by numbers, why do they not double the salary of African Americans countrywide? And I'm not saying that to say that they should double, but I think that's a fair question if you think that there's racism on a systemic level. Because if you think that there's racism at a systemic level, especially economically, why do the numbers not reflect that?
No, that's okay.
So I think it'll be helpful as we talk, so I can kind of.
And you would say that would apply to someone who's poor, who's white, just as much as someone who's poor is black. Like the trailer park kid from Arkansas is at just as much of a disadvantage as the poor black child from South.
Well, I think that the poor trailer park trash people in Arkansas.
I didn't say trash.
I did. I'm not mincy about words.
That's fine.
I'm concerned about the meaning behind it. I don't get triggered by the misuse of pronouns and shit.
Let me ask you this. I won't want to get off track. I want to go back to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you think most black people think the way you do?
No, absolutely not.
You think they are offended by words?
I think most people in general are offended by words.
Okay, because generally speaking,
I think I'm a rare exception.
The people that I've met, most average black Americans, not those in the media, don't tend to be nearly as sensitive as privileged white people about words.
I've seen it both ways. Okay. I don't think there's a way you can generalize it.
Okay.
I think it's a
so you're just an anomaly.
Yeah. I think we all are. Okay. We're all special little snowflakes.
Okay, so trailer trash. I would rather you not, just because what happens is, let's say someone at Shake Shack poisoned it. Then I'm on the hook.
I work at In-N-Out, and I'll still go to.
Do you work at In-N-Out?
Yeah, I do.
Well, then I have a beef with you because I think you're overrated, overhyped, over everything. So the trailer trash white kid from that's true.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. That is true. I think people just like to feel like they're a part of the secret menu. So you said the white trailer trash from Arkansas. So going back to classism, do you believe that it would be the same disadvantage for someone who is poor in a lower class trailer trash white person from Arkansas as, let's say, a kid from inner city South Dallas, or they don't?
No, not quite, because of the stereotypes and the presumptions that people carry. I think that when a white person walks into the public, people oftentimes go in with a more neutral idea of what they could be. They have less assumptions and whatnot. Just like, okay, look in this room right now. I'm the only black person right now.
Well, you weren't. There were other black guys.
Maybe 30 minutes ago. Okay, I'm very outnumbered. I'm out-ratioed right now, right?
Well, can I say something right there?
Yeah.
Because I will tell you this. There have been some people who've come up who've been unsavory characters, and you would not be Now, I will acknowledge this. Sometimes you make assumptions when you see somebody. For example, if I see a guy with a Hell's Angels jacket, I go, ooh, let me be careful.
That's just a natural human reaction. I'm surprised that we still talk about this. If you see someone with a freshly shaven face, with a nice shape up or a nice haircut, they're wearing a nice suit with a tie, with a briefcase, walking down the street, you're going to think that they do some type of career that's successful. Whether or not you're right or wrong, you're going to think that. If you see a worker walking down the street, they have some nice new boots, some very expensive Levi jeans, and they drive a nice size Ford F-150, you're going to think they own some type of construction company. If you see someone walking down the street, they're sagging their pants, their jacket's hanging off their shoulder, they're wearing a do-rag or something with a bust-down chain, you're probably going to think they're a rapper or something. I don't know. But that's just how humans are. We can't change it. It's just how we are. Why do we pretend like that's not the truth? Why do you think there's dress codes when you go literally everywhere? There's a dress code when you go to work. There's a dress code for police officers, for judges, for attorneys, for politicians, for doctors, because humans have perceptions based off of what they see.
He's, got a teardrop tattoo. You would be someone here, I would think, oh, that's someone who's dressed well, is articulate, has himself together.
I'm not dressed well right now.
You're dressed cleanly. You got shoes going on. You're out here.
Barely.
Not which is more than I can say for everyone here. Some of these people look like they should, they're the hobos. So I don't necessarily think that, at least in my experience, and with everyone I know who works on my crew, and we do have black people, and we do have Latinos.
Diversity quotas.
Yeah, it is. I don't think that people would necessarily look. I think some would. I don't think that's necessarily true.
I think it's a lot more common than you might think right off.
Could be.
Yeah, I think it's the unfortunate truth of the world that we live in, and it's derivative of the world that we came from.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that I would agree with that for a few reasons. Like we kind of mentioned, for example, let's use the education example specifically, because you said going into college. I think that actually a young black man from South Dallas has a great advantage over a young white trailer trash steward from Arkansas. Eminem, Salem's Lot. We'll go that. That way it's specific and we're not generalizing anybody. It's a very specific person.
Hey, I'm also from Detroit.
Because, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, where are you from in Detroit?
Michigan. Detroit.
Come on. Are you actually from Detroit?
I don't know the
People
hospital.
say Detroit, they mean Mount Pleasant or something.
Detroit area. I don't remember. I moved here when I was like...
What? He said we're in Detroit and you said Michigan. Isn't Detroit in Michigan?
And I don't really
You're from Birmingham.
No, not Birmingham. I'll remember when I hear it, you know?
There are far more scholarships available to black Americans, and black Americans are accepted into universities with significantly lower test scores than white Americans or Asian Americans. So I do think that there have been some attempts to right wrongs of the past, which actually haven't yielded good results. They've yielded worse results in applications and enrollments and graduations. And what's interesting is when you look at the classism, first off, we have more class mobility here in the United States than anywhere else. Certainly than Canada.
Can you define class mobility for me?
Meaning there are more people in the United States who end up in the top 30% of income than anywhere else in the world at some point in their life, or in the top 10%, including people go from the top 10, from the bottom 10 or the bottom 30 to the top 30 to the top. There's more class mobility here in the United States, more ability to rise out of poverty into upper middle class than anywhere else in the world. It's not even close.
Right. Just curious, I'm going to look it up afterwards. Where do you get those numbers
Absolutely.
from?
I can show them to you here if you would like to.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to glance.
And it's even interesting where you take people where they might have a higher overall quality of living, like Sweden or Denmark, and you take Swedes or Danes and you bring them to the United States, and they have a higher class mobility and higher quality of living here in the United States, because I think we acknowledge that different countries have different cultures, and sometimes they're more studious, sometimes there are cultures that are more industrious. But when you transplant any culture to the United States, I shouldn't say any, but all the stats that we have available to us, the best parts of their cultures that they bring actually are accentuated, and we see more of that.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of interesting. Well, when you say transplant in the United States, can you be more specific on the areas? I think.
Well, I just use like Sweden and Denmark as an example.
But where in the United States when they've been transplanted to? Because
anywhere
in the United States,
I doubt many of them are going.
I don't think the student really has anything to debate, if I'm being honest. I think they're a little confused. Well, not confused, but I think they're just trying to learn information. They probably should just get up and go, because this is rarely a debate.
You know, to the middle of Mississippi.
But I think that's part of the issue. When you look at rural areas, when you look at ghettos, where a lot of these lower income people are, where a lot of black people are, oftentimes...
And white people.
More so, black people oftentimes, statistically, when you look at our proportion of this society, you know? I think
there are more white people on welfare than black people.
There are more white people in the United States.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, as far as the total number, yeah, I understand.
I'm talking about population ratio per capita wise.
You do have more black people who are poor than white people.
Yeah, and
as a percentage.
Oftentimes,
and why do you think that is?
Mainly because of the history of the United States, the discrimination that has happened in the past, the disadvantage that we were in the past. You know, we started so far behind in this race, so like there's only so far that as a collective we're going to be now.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
19.
19 and a half.
So you believe that, let's say, a 19-year-old yourself.
Yeah.
You seem like a pretty articulate guy. Are you going to school?
Not right now.
Working in and out? I think you'll probably do okay. You seem like a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah.
You believe that at this point you are feeling the ripple effects from slavery in the history of the United States, and that you face systemic discrimination?
I think there have definitely been times in my life and places that I've been where I have felt the effects. I think overall, I grew up in a very privileged family. My parents, they make good money.
Do you have both parents?
Yeah, and that's the other
huge,
thing. That's also
far bigger than any other statistic.
So more than likely, you probably had a better life than a big portion of young white children. The fact that you grew up with both parents who make good money, you already won the lottery. You won. Game over. You win. There are thousands of white people watching this video, or Asian people watching this video, or black people watching this video, or Native American people watching this video who grew up with worse circumstances off you solely based off of you having two parents. That one thing, you're already winning. And here we are, again, talking about systemic oppression when you literally had a better circumstance than majority of young children in America. Congrats.
Yeah, because when you take, that's something that I think is important, and maybe we could find common ground. When you take upper middle class white kids or black kids, they perform typically the same. When you take lower class white kids or black kids, they often perform the same. When you take any class of kids without a dad, they perform very poorly by all metrics available. As a matter of fact, if you want to avoid being in poverty, there are 3 things that you can do. It's very simple. Go to school, don't commit a crime, wait till you're married to have kids.
Right, so I want to hear your opinion on this. Why do you think that oftentimes more black children have to grow up in one household families?
That's a cultural issue that we never talk about, ever. Don't blame this on racism. I really hope you don't. I really hope you don't blame this on racism, man.
Can I speak freely without being accused of racism?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it goes back to the welfare reform. I think it goes back to the model cities program. It goes back to a welfare state created that disincentivizes people from staying married. There's a financial incentive right now to not be married.
So if that incentive is there, why is it only happening to black families?
Because it's in black culture. He won't say it, so I will say it. It's in the black culture. We do not necessarily emphasize marriage. It's really that simple. He said, why is it only happening to black people? That's a good question. Why is it only happening to black people in the country? Not Nigerian Americans, just African Americans. Not Ghanaian Americans, just African Americans. Not Cambodian Americans, just African Americans. Why? Because it's a culture thing. What else could it be? And this is a real question. What else could it be? But anyways, if you want a part 2 to this, let me know in the comments. For Jojo, and I'll see you later.